I think, very complementary to all the great presentation that we had. Most of the content of my presentations originates from the project Ice&Life that I have created with a few researchers and NGOs and academic partners and policymakers and private companies over the last 5 years. And this is a science-based project, but the real aim is to enhance the direct protections of glaciers and postglacial ecosystems. So I will introduce it to you. Well, we are all experts of glacial retreat, unfortunately, and all the talk they talk about that. So I won't go further on that topic. But we try to develop a systematic view and try to put together glaciological, geomorphological, ecological, and social sciences research together to study the world system. We are studying everywhere globally, glaciers, they are shrinking. And as a consequence, there is a very large emergence of postglacial ecosystems. For instance, as presented in the presentations on the glacial lakes in Himalaya, there is a lot of new glacial lakes that are emerging globally. And also the sea level is rising. So as a consequence of glacial retreat, there is a huge consequences in terms of modifications of intertidal ecosystems. This is not the topic of my presentations, but the cascading consequence in terms of ecological consequence and change of ecosystems of glacial retreat is very important globally. So in the project, we try to study the position of glaciers during the Little Ice Age and their evolution since the anthropogenic climate change. And we try to see where the glaciers are still existing and what kind of ecosystems and habitat have succeeded to glaciers. For instance, we are finalizing global analysis in the European Alps on the total evolutions of glaciers since the Little Ice Age. For instance, we can see that it only remains 42% of the initial surface. And there is a lot of new ecosystems as a consequence of glacial retreat. Most of emerging areas are deglaciated, sedimentary and rocky surface, but some of the emerging ecosystems have already vegetation on the surface as pristine forest, grasslands, wetlands, and there is also a lot of new freshwater ecosystems as lakes or rivers. So we are finalizing this kind of analysis. And 2 years ago, we published, thanks to the data of Matthias Huss, which is a great glaciologist, the future trajectories of glaciers as ecosystems, and also the emerging topography that is going to be on the surface after the glacial retreat in order to anticipate the formations of new lakes, of new terrestrial, and also marine ecosystems after the glacial retreat. So I won't go too much into detail here, but one of the key messages is that we can still save a very large amount of ice globally if by miracle we respect the Paris Agreement. But even if we respect the Paris Agreement up to the end of the century, the cumulative area of deglaciated ecosystems will be very huge globally. And in the best case climatic scenario, what is going to emerge due to glacial retreat up to the end of the century is the equivalent of the area of the Nepal. of the surface of the Nepal. And if we go in high emission scenarios, the surface will be very, very high globally, and the size of the Finland. And we are also in this study try to anticipate, as I said, the topography, to anticipate for each region, for each glacier, and then for each region and globally, the emerging habitat, if there will be terrestrial, freshwater, or marine habitats. So that's modeling results with a lot of uncertainties, of course, but to my knowledge, that was the first global analysis on that topic. What we try to say is very in line with what the people have presented before, that glaciers, they are very important for many ecosystem services or global contribution to the Earth's functioning. The first one of them is the role of glaciers and ice sheets on climate regulation. I won't go too much in detail on that, but what we try to say is that, okay, also emerging postglacial ecosystems, they do not replace, they are not as much important globally as glaciers, but in default of glaciers, because they are shrinking and they are going to continue to shrink over the next decades and centuries. The emerging forest and soil have also a large importance for climate regulation globally. And for instance, in nature, we just, so it's in French, but just to show you, for instance, in nature, we just anticipate the potential carbon sequestration in the emerging soil due to glacial retreat. And up to the end of the century, it would be like if the tropical humid forest as the Amazonian forest can grow by 2,000 to 10,000 square kilometers. So it do not replace glaciers. It do not replace the other very important ecosystems in terms of carbon sequestration. But if we protect this area and protect both glaciers and emerging post-glacial ecosystems, there will be positive things on the climatic issue. Another issue is the importance of glaciers on the water cycle and the sea level. But here again, in default of glaciers, the emerging of new lakes, of new wetlands, are very important in the future for freshwater management and for freshwater availability in the territories. So the presentations on glacial lakes before was focused on geohazards and outburst floats, but most of the new lakes, they are stable in terms of natural hazards, and they are very important and strategic freshwater stores for biodiversity and also for local communities. So we have also to preserve them and to respect them. So there is a lot of new lakes that are going to emerge in the future decades. Unfortunately, most of the glacial meltwater will go to the oceans, and we just have a quick analysis on the potential volume of the lakes, and only 1 to 5% of the current glacial volume could be stored in these glacial lakes, but it will be better than nothing in the territories. And also there is probably millions of kilometers of new pristine rivers, and also a lot of wetlands that are going to happen in the near future related to glacial retreat. And finally, both glaciers and postglacial ecosystems are very important for biodiversity, as Scott just showed before. The postglacial ecosystems are very, very pristine and very important in terms of refuge and sanctuaries for biodiversity. If we look at the state of the Earth and the human footprint and what remain wild and intact in nature, unfortunately, there is a lot of region globally where human impact is very high. in ecosystems. And for instance, if we look in Europe, there is only few green dots and of intact and wilderness ecosystems. And the green dot, they are most of them connected to glacial and post-glacial ecosystems. So they are very, in many regions, these cold ecosystem and changing ecosystems can be considered as the last of the wild. So we have to protect them because there is a lot of ongoing projects and ongoing activities that spread both glaciers and post-glacial ecosystems. So for instance, there is existing mining activities on glaciers that destroy in real-time glaciers. This paper last year in Science was a call to protect glacial and post-glacial ecosystem because mining companies take claim on them. This is example of, for instance, illegal mining deposits in new lakes in Peru. And this is also ski resort in France, where you can see that glaciers are destroyed by bulldozers. So there is a lot of issues in these very pristine and important ecosystems. In the global analysis that we are finalizing in the Alps, we are also looking where the ski resorts are developing, and some of them are really developing in post-glacial and on-glacial ecosystems. There is also a lot of dam hydropower plant projects in this area. So we try to say that they are very important. These ecosystems are fragile, very important for a lot of contribution globally and locally. So we have to respect and protect them. So that's why in Nature last year, we tried to share this holistic systemic view. So we study this system that is changing from day to day. The glaciers are globally shrinking and post-glacial ecosystems are growing. Up to now, the scientific research and also the activities in the territories, they are mainly anthropocentric. There is a lot of study on, as we know, on, for instance, natural hazards, touristic, economical activities there. And we have to develop globally and collectively also biocentric views to better manage and take care of these key ecosystems. So just to conclude, Ice&Life is really a project that tries to impact or take part of policymaking. So first of all, the main key message is basic, and this is not new at all, but if we want to protect glaciers and post-glacial ecosystems, we have to enhance climate change mitigations. In this paper, 5 years ago, we said that glaciers, they are very important because in ecology, they can be seen as similar to keystone, umbrella, and flagship ecosystem. They are very large potential to raise awareness and to catalyze collective reactions. And one great example of that is that in Switzerland, the Glacier Initiative, so the initiative on glaciers, a popular initiative, thanks to the commitments of people and the vote, now the Paris Agreement is in the constitution because of the glaciers and because of the ambitions to protect and save the Swiss glaciers. So it shows that glaciers are allies of us to change also the policy at national level. And just to conclude, at local level and also at what we put in the table is that, okay, we also have to improve in situ nature conservations of glaciers and post-glacial ecosystems by the creations of protected areas like in this area in the Mont Blanc in France, by national laws or by international initiative as treaty. And for instance, last year, thanks to Ice&Life and our propositions, we made success in France, and the glacial in post-glacial conservation in France was not at all up to now an objective, a national objective. And since the last national strategy for biodiversity, there is an action in France that will put under strong and effective protection all the glaciers before 2030. So it shows that we can also work with policymakers. So just one example, we are now working with local communities and for instance, here with the mayor of a city and the children municipality council to protect glaciers and try to be also innovative in terms of local democracy and commit and invite children to also take their part and be the center of the idea to protect ongoing nature and also future nature. So thanks a lot for your attention in this talk.
Okay, thank you very much. It's nice to see that you're working so closely with local communities and capturing that enthusiasm for environmental protection in each region. So thank you for that. And that actually wraps up our set of presentations.